Right, watch out, welcome back. Just another quick one today. This is another little interim, purely because the paint hasn't turned up for the bash plate. Frost wrap paint, which we ordered about a week and a half ago, is still waiting. So ultimately, until that turns up, I can't finish the bash plate project and get stuck into the Bandit. Right, this is something that I think is quite important. The question's come up a few times. What is the lifespan of your oil? How long does the oil last in your bike? It's a bit like the same question, how long do your tyres last? Who knows? What's the bike like? How do you ride it? What are the conditions? How do you ride? Are you heavy on the throttle, heavy on the brakes? Tyres don't last a constant amount of time. There's an average, there's a scope, but they don't last 1 mileage, do they? Not at brake pads, not at chains and sprockets, not at any other part of the bike. So why is it that oil is always changed at 5,000 or 6,000 miles with the filter? Ask yourself that question. I ask myself questions all the time. I tend to have less than the greatest of respect for the manufacturer's recommendations, and that's not because I don't think the world of them and I don't love them. It's because often their decisions are made from they're motivated by financial reasons. They have to give you a number. When they recommend an oil change at a given period, they have to give you a specific mileage. They can't generalize because people won't get it. They have to just, at that mileage, take it to your dealer, have it serviced. People like that. They like it definite. But I like to be a bit more of a thinking man, and this is how I look at it. The point here is, take two motorbikes. We've got, say, a Yamaha R6 over here, revs to 17,000 revs. It gets used every weekend by a loony who screams the pants off it all day and puts it away again for the whole week while he goes to work in his office. On the other hand, we've got a Suzuki Bandit 1200 ridden by a guy dispatch riding round the city with luggage on, up and down the gearbox all day long. Both bikes produce 100 horsepower, both bikes are used by their owners how they want. How is it? There's no way that the oil in the two different engines can be going through the same stresses. It's physically impossible, they're just not. So we have to look at the oil may deteriorate quicker. This is the point I'm trying to make here. Now the oil and filter, I want to discard the filter for a minute, purely because filters these days need changing less than they did before. There was a time when your oil went black. As it got older, you could tell the oil was a bit black, we'll change it. But the black in your oil is caused by soot and carbon from the carburation process, or the combustion process, sorry. It is nothing to do with the oil breaking down itself. You can have perfectly good oil that's sooty black. If you've got a diesel vehicle, a diesel truck, you put brand new oil in it, drive it 5 miles and it's black as you like because they run on oil. Diesel is an oil and effectively it makes soot instantly, but the oil is good. So it's the molecular structure of the oil we've got to look at, and that's what I want to do here. Come on in, pal, I'll show you this. This is a little test which I just want to put in place so you can do it yourself, that helps you to understand what is going on inside your engine and in what state it's in. Now the oil in the Bandit here has done 500 miles. It's sat for 3 months, so it's going to get changed anyway. But if you want to check it, quite simply poke a cable tie down inside, get it into the sump and get yourself a good fingerful of your engine oil, right, on your fingers. It won't hurt, wash your hands after. Then come to the pack of new oil you've got on your shelf, and obviously you've all got a pack of new oil on your shelf, I trust. And there's your two oils. There's new in that hand and there's the engine oil in that one. And just feel them. That's the comparison test. Now they both feel almost the same because that's Motul 4T in there. Good oil. Now the point here is, the test you're trying to make is that the molecular chains of the oil have not been broken down and started to snap. And what I mean by that is that shear strength. I think I've talked about that in oil change videos before. When you get the new oil, you can give it the hard as you can and it's all slidey and slimy and soft. That's lovely. This oil in the engine, you do it and after a while you start to get through it. You can break through that oil and it's skin to skin and you start to get that judder like it's just water. That's what you're looking for. It's that comparison that you're trying to make. And I think that that's something like we could all do. You can do it on a regular basis, just like you check your tyres, you check your chain sprockets, your cush drives in the back, your headstock bearings. These are all things you should be checking. But I bet you none of you do this. It's a very simple thing. That's how long it takes, just a second. That's okay. 400 miles that's done, it's absolutely fine. But because it's sat and that oil's done nothing and it hasn't moved for 3 months, I will dump it and put that in when the time comes. The point here being, once those molecular chains are broken down in the oil, it starts to shear easier. So that means that when it gets bullied by the internal parts in the engine, it starts to get shear, it starts to break and the metal parts start to rub together. Especially in the gearbox. Remember that These are a unit construction. What that means is that the cogs and the synchros and the gearbox, they get lubricated by the engine oil as well. It's one oil inside the whole engine. Doesn't happen in a car. Only happen with only 1 or 2 cars, but it doesn't. Nearly all bikes are a unit construction these days. So that oil between those cogs, all those synchros inside that gearbox, that oil gets absolutely pulverized within the minute of you starting the engine and riding away. So it doesn't hurt to check it. The oil is good for it. It should be good for 4,000 or 5,000 miles. But obviously there's water gets in your oil from condensation. If you live in a cold place like Iowa and it gets -30 in the winter, your oil is going to get a lot of water in it, and that water is definitely going to affect the oil's viscosity, and it's something you need to deal with. When you feel that, you get that juddering between your fingers, or you get a drip between your fingers and there's nothing, it just rinses away, and the new oil's all lovely and tacky and stringy, why not put it in? That's the message that I want to get across in this little quick video. Just to say, check your oil inside your engine as much as you check anything else, and that will preserve and lengthen the life of your motor. There is a great story I just want to impart very quickly. There was a very famous Triumph trophy way back now, probably something like 15 years ago. I read a story in a bike magazine and I've long since lost it. This guy had done 250,000 miles on a Triumph trophy, and it was a dispatch bike. It was going up and down to Manchester to London every day, and it was being hot seated by 2 dispatch riders, so it was literally never off the road. It was doing night and day, and at every 1,000 miles they were putting new oil in it. And every 10,000 miles they changed the filter, and that oil went on to 250,000 miles, that bike engine, with no real problems. But bikes that were being treated the same way, that weren't being changed, they were being done every 6,000 or 7,000, they were dying at 1.5 or 150,000, they were dying, bearings were knocking out, bottom ends were going. So it really does prove that changing your oil, over changing it, over servicing your bike is a good thing. Doesn't cost a lot, pack of oil, £20. If you use cheaper oil, this is definitely worth doing, because the cheaper oil is going to break down sooner. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully that'll give you some insight. Little challenge for you, go out to your bike now, get some new oil on one finger, get some of your engine oil on another. I bet you it's different. I bet you. Any more than 1,000 miles on that oil, you'll feel a difference. If you don't, all well and good. If you do, you might want to change your oil tomorrow, day off, Sunday. Okay, there we go. Take it easy, ride safe. See you next time.